Welcome to the Thriving Children podcast, the show that helps parents and teachers to put the magic back in child development. Here's your host, Clare Crew.
This is episode number 79 of the Thriving Children podcast. I'm Clare Crew, and in this episode of the podcast, I'm chatting with Natalie Smith and Anna Meadows. And we are going to be sharing our plans for children if we could create changes in the school system, if we could create changes for families, and if we could create changes for individual children that would be to their benefit. So welcome to the podcast again, Nat and Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for organising this little get-together.
You're welcome. So Natalie and Anna, I know from last year's play conference and this year's play conference. Anna has been on the podcast talking about, was it play and sensory processing, Anna? And then Nat was on quite some time ago speaking about boys' development and the needs of boys in our education system.
Yep.
Cool. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different. We're going to pretend that a genie is granting us 3 wishes. And so these wishes are up to each of us to determine how we're going to spend them, how we're going to use them, but it obviously needs to be channeled towards creating positive change in children's lives. So the first wish is going to be what change we would create within schools or within the wider education system. The second wish is one that we would create for families. And the third one is what we would create for children. So we've all kind of gone away. We've brainstormed our own ideas. We have no idea what each of us has come up with. And just before I hit record, we were saying it actually was quite challenging to do so.
Yeah, there's so many wishes.
Really, really hard to narrow it down.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah. And that's, I guess, when I was doing it, I was thinking, okay, like, oh, I want that one and I want that one. But I guess I tried to go deep to get one that would kind of encompass some of those smaller changes that I want. So we might all have exactly the same 3 wishes.
That'd be great.
So what I might do to start with, so Nat, you're an educator like me. I would love to hear what wish you would wish. I need another word. What wish you would manifest for schools or the education system?
Okay, well, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone who's listened to me speak or knows me to know that I am a big supporter of developmental education and holistic, child-centred, connected developmental education. So my wish for the schooling system and the way that it's heading at the moment in terms of how heavy the curriculum is and what is necessary for the child in the education system, and is it working and is it not working, and if it's not, let's do something about it, because I'm just tired of seeing these burnt out principals, burnt out teachers, burnt out children, and I just want to get back to what do we do that's right, and not just have it focused on basically removing the politicians from our system and giving the power back to our educators because they know what they're doing. So that's my wish.
Yeah, I love that one, Nat. That was awesome.
I hear you loud and clear too.
And so, Anna, you're an occupational therapist, so I wonder if you've got a different kind of slant on things as an outsider.
Well, maybe. I am an occupational therapist, but I also come from a family of many teachers. My parents are both teachers and have taught all their lives. And my aunts, one of my aunts was a early childhood educator for her whole career. So I'm really surrounded by teachers in my family as well. And my one wish is to completely overhaul the entire education system. Because I feel, and maybe Nat, maybe you and I are really overlapping here too, because I just feel like at the moment it is data driven, it is politically driven, it is. I want to see the this overhaul of the school system, really taking into account the professionals in the field, educators. Why do we have to start the children so young in formal schooling? Why do we need to put kids through all these tests and put so many pressures on teachers to create this data when really, the evidence is not there to say that's the best way. The evidence really, if we look around the world, is looking at play in the early years and looking at shorter time in this formal school setting, and looking at teachers being higher paid and better respected, really. They should be the ones really saying what goes into the curriculum and how that curriculum is implemented, and it should really depend on the kids in the class and not by this kind of stock standard. This is how the whole population needs to be educated. That's my one big wish. If I had one small wish, can I give a small wish too?
Oh, cheeky Anna, you're breaking
Can I throw
the
in a
rules.
small wish?
What would the genie say?
I don't know. That's a
Genie
big wish.
says sure.
Maybe if the genie says, "Is this part of the overhaul?" Well, it could be. I really would love to see lunch times at play, where kids are out in the playground, incorporating more play workers. Why don't we, really consult with play workers and get kids really getting a lot out of that playtime and
longer
and have a longer playtime? Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
I love your big wish. I love your little wish. And do you know what, Nat and Anna, your wish for the education system is pretty much, let's just scrap what we're doing here and copy Finland.
Yeah. Shall we?
Yeah, sounds good. And I think, sadly, the only way that we're actually going to see that happen in our lifetime is through magic. I really don't know that. I mean, there's so much research there to say that the direction we're going in is the wrong direction, and yet we keep going that way. Now they're talking about NAPLAN, standardised testing for year ones, and we just keep doing more of what has already been proven isn't helping. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, and it's because we've lost what child-centred education is. That's what it is.
Definitely. All right, do you want to hear my wish?
Yeah.
So
Yes, I'd love to hear yours. Go, Claire. Go.
I reckon mine is a bit more realistic. Like, I reckon I almost...
What are you trying to say, Claire?
Oh, no. An overhaul is well and truly realistic.
No, I know it is. I know. No, I feel like I might have shrunk mine down a little bit because I would love to just scrap everything. But I thought, okay, what's a really tangible thing that could take us in the right direction in so many ways? And what I was thinking is that when we are working with children from birth to age 5, we have a much smaller ratio of adults to children. And in preschool or kindy, wherever you are in Australia or the world, we're talking about 4 to 5-year-olds in that part-time play-based model. We have a 1 to 13 ratio. So what that means is that if you have 26 children, like in one of the kindies that I worked in, we had 2 staff. So I was the educator and then there was an early childhood worker there. So we were the team that supported those children together. And if we had 27 children, then we needed to have a third member of staff come on. So that site planned it quite well, so they didn't have to spend more on that extra staff member, and they capped it at 26. But if you think about it, 26 is the average size of most classes. And if you had that second person there, there would be so much more support for children with additional needs, those who do have a specific diagnosis, but also the children who, are needing a bit more support in specific areas, a bit more individualization at either end of the spectrum. We've got less burnout for educators because you're then part of a team. It's not just all weighted on you. You've got someone else to share ideas with, to debrief at the end of the day, just to feel like you're not isolated within those four walls of the classroom. And then I think as well, it would actually be much easier to have things like play and, you know, sensory messy things and the outdoor learning and all of those other things that I often talk about on the podcast, because when that ratio is so out of balance, I get it. It actually is a lot harder to do the kind of experiences that you would with the 0 to 5 age group in childcare settings in preschools. Whereas if you had that better ratio, I think it would come a lot more naturally to a lot more educators to go and do those other things because they're better resourced from that human perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And it's at that grassroots level too where we can see all that developmental education come back to. And if you have that extra support and that extra person in there, they can take those, you know, little snippets of work during the day that can support the children.
Yeah, you can be a bit more targeted. And I think as well, you've then got that time to actually kind of be at a distance watching the children at play or engaged in an experience and do those observations and things, which really I found a lot harder once I was in that classroom environment. And that's where I think as well we end up getting so much more wrapped up in the standardized testing. I mean, a lot of educators aren't into the idea of standardized testing, but are still using quite testing kind of models to work out where the children are at. Whereas when you have more time and space available to actually observe children on a more individual level in their natural learning state, I don't know that we'd even need such a big reliance on that from a school level either.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, good point.
Cool. All right. But, you know, I do prefer the idea of let's just burn it to the ground and start again.
No, look, I think there's lots of little things too, Claire. I think that's probably the way that we'll get towards an overhaul. Just making these small changes, and perhaps that lies a little bit with parents and school councils really putting forward strong cases to their school communities, and then you know, communicating with regions, and you know, little by little start a revolution.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying. We're probably still going to be, you know, 90-something, you know, like getting our backs up about things, determined to make it happen.
The longest running podcast ever.
Episode 5074.
With Matt and Anna and Claire again.
Oh, dear. So let's change focus. Now we are looking at the wish that you've been granted by the genie that creates positive change within families. So who went first last time? Should we go to you first this time, Anna?
Okay. So with this wish, I wasn't sure if it was something that was a wish for the families or a wish that we hoped that families would kind of take on board themselves, sort of a wish of families. But
either
anyway.
or, anything goes.
So my idea was really, really simple and maybe a little bit random, but being an OT, I am really interested in what kids play with and how they play and how their development is nurtured in the home right from the word go. And my wish is for families to really be nice and confident in the fact that they don't actually need loads and loads of toys and loads of stimulating play spaces at home and in their children's daily lives, right through not just to what's in the bedroom or playroom or house and backyard, but also how they think about toys in terms of Christmas presents and birthday presents. Because with all the very best intentions in the world and, you know, with parents' hearts in the right places, I just feel like less is more.
Oh, definitely. I'm always saying less is more to the families I work with. And
how hard is it? How hard is it when there are children's birthdays and then there's just piles of presents that have been bought with all these good intentions and from a good place, but then it's just more stuff for the child to
not play
organise
with.
And have to and you know, yeah, are they really going to attend to all that and get involved in it, or it's just a whole lot of money and not necessarily they need.
And it's often the quantity, not the quality as well, wouldn't you say, Anna? Like, it's a lot of toys that do all the thinking for you, and it's not the toys that's really going to support the movement or the sensory development or that imagination and curiosity.
Yes.
And also, we don't need more clutter in our homes. Like, I think really it also creates that drive towards materialism, you know, of both parents needing to be working and working long hours and bringing in a good income and having all the best of everything. And then
so you can afford huge stacks of presents for your kids, for other kids, and so that they can fill their rooms with all these toys, but it's really not helping. They don't need much. It's that old saying of, we joke about it. The child will open the present and play with the box and the wrapping paper more than the actual present that was inside. But it's funny, haha. But it's actually seriously true.
Yeah.
It's actually true.
And their parents spend a lot more time telling their kids to clean up the stuff that they've bought.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be nice if that sort of went away and that was just nicer communication and bonding between families?
Yeah. Focus on connection. But what I like there is as well that you framed it for parents to be confident in having less stuff, because I think some people, because they don't have the resources or for other reasons, they might kind of be providing less, but they actually feel that they're not providing for their child those experiences that they really want to be. Do you know what I mean? They're actually kind of doing that comparison game and going, your childhood isn't as glossy and shiny and glittery and as amazing. So they're not actually seeing that as a good thing, when actually from a child development perspective, it really is.
Yes. And I'd be really interested to hear what other people, might do for birthday parties and with the present situation. And it depends on the year and the child and their age and all that sort of thing too. But it's kind of a good opportunity to have a chat to kids about toys and stuff and giving and receiving, and sometimes doing something really different, like saying to your friends, how about this time, this birthday, can you write down some of your funniest jokes in an envelope for me? Or, think of something that's a little bit fun, but doesn't mean more stuff in the house.
Yeah, I think sometimes we do get toys for other people, but often we try to get things like books or pajamas. And I think it's really good if you can have those conversations with the parents first to say, are there any specific clothes that your child needs for the season ahead? You can, even if you don't want to overhaul, completely scrap gift receiving for your child, when you're going to other events, you can kind of frame those conversations so that what you give is going to be a lot more practical and something that the child likely needs to be purchased for them anyway.
Are they really, really interested in something in particular? Is there something that they need or don't need? Or yeah,
and birthday parties get bigger than Ben-Hur too. So
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
I know. Yeah. That kind of gets into we keep on glossing around what my wish is. So we might get to you, Nat. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's move on.
No, mine was very similar in terms that it kind of encompasses that. Yeah. No, more in terms of giving families back instinct and time and connection with each other, because I feel like there's so much that is put in our way of being connected families, in terms of, we've got to get kids to extracurricular activities and we've got to buy them the best things and so that they don't look, bad to their peers, and we've got to, make sure that we're earning enough money so that we can have the best of. And the things that I remember from my childhood, we didn't have much. We had enough, and we were, doing a lot better than some people. But I don't remember getting massive presents at Christmas, and I don't remember being, I've got to go here to gymnastics that day and I've got to do swimming lessons this day, and I just remember being with my family, and I remember us, being connected, and that's what I feel is missing for families. And because we're not connected, our instincts are off between families. Now, even in terms of competition with mothers, like my son's doing this and my child's doing this, and my child was doing that before they were, this age. You're losing the fact that not all kids are the same and not all families are the same, and what works for some families doesn't work for others. There's no box. It's almost like we've standardised our families as well as our schools, and families are going against their better judgment to satisfy their children. And
that's so good.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I love how you said that word enough. It's enough is enough. And when I was growing up, Nat, too, we had that saying of there's always someone that's got more than you, and there's always someone that's got less than you. There's always someone that's better off and worse off in every single situation. And families, are kind of being pressured not to have that instinct of their own needs and just go with be confident in what their family needs. Yeah. It's hard.
It's so good. I love that we're really coming up with such similar ideas, but they kind of sit next to each other. And mine is so similar to what you just kind of evolved into talking about, Nat. Mine was remove the competition. I think that parenting and education has become so competitive. And, as you said, Nat, oh, my child walked first, or my child can do this and your child can't, or my child is going to go to Japanese lessons on Mondays and gymnastics on Tuesdays because they need to look good in front of other people. Or in America, I think more so, they need to have all these things on their resume ready to get into the good schools. And I think that if we can remove that competition, firstly, we've got that deeper connection, as you were saying, Nat. We just feel more in tune. We're more likely to follow our gut instincts as opposed to get swept up in what everyone else is doing. Keeping up appearances, even if things are crumbling on the inside. I think that we are increasing that acceptance once we remove competition. It's okay if, that child over there has different needs or a different pace of which they're achieving those milestones. It's okay that I have a different parenting style to the person over here. And it's okay if we each have different values. I think that it would really mean that we've got more families enjoying life at their own pace, less scheduled, less children who then as a result are going to be pressured and feeling anxious. And I think really a lot more children who are going to end up feeling that unconditional love that I think is so important to them, because they don't feel like they are loved if they perform well at a certain class or if they keep up with the next door neighbour developmentally or in some kind of a, testing scenario. They just know that they're part of their family, and no matter what they do or what mistakes they make, they're always going to be loved. And not just that they are, but that they actually feel and experience that love as well.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
It's about support too for families. We should be supporting each other. And that comes from respect for the fact that my family is different to yours, but you're doing what works. And as long as your kids are good people and you're good people as parents, it doesn't matter. The rest doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, now I could give you a big virtual hug right now.
I'm feeling it.
You're feeling the love. Because what kids need are happy parents. Confident parents, not parents that are feeling pressured and stressed and guilty and always, time poor and money poor and energy poor. They, if one parent is happy with their child going down the street and playing by themselves somewhere, that is their family's routine and what that family's confident with. And no one should be saying to someone else, so this is what everybody needs to be doing straight up, or, every child is different, and every parent has really got, from the day their kid's born, this really strong connection with their child and instinct about what their kid needs and what makes them as a family happy and feel safe and comfortable. And we should be supporting everybody's everybody's journey wherever they're at and whatever they're doing.
Oh, I agree so much. I just see so much stress around me in, some of the families that I interact with closely, but also just, you go to the shopping centre or the swimming centre or you're there at school pickup and you just see so many frazzled families. And I think that if everyone had permission to slow down and just accept where they're at and where their children are at, I think it would just open the doors to a much happier existence.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Amen.
Yeah. And sometimes it is more stressful for families to have lots and lots of extracurricular activities, and sometimes it's actually less stressful for the families to get on with their routine of doing lots of extra things. And it may actually not be for everybody, but for some kids that have just got that much energy that in the family house it's just not satisfying that energy or passion, it might actually be exactly what is needed at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. I love
it's
that.
Actually, the other way around. I hear both from all sorts of families in the clinic. Some families need that relax and very calm, quiet, not a lot on, and other families really need that little bit of structure and knowing, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And sometimes it's actually more exhausting to not do the things that are run by other people.
And that's tricky
sometimes
too, isn't it, when you've got more than one child?
It's all balanced.
Because it's quite
balanced.
Individual as well. So you've kind of got to look at, okay, this child wants to be doing lots, this one doesn't. Can we do a swap with another family on a particular day so that we can kind of nurture that one who needs a bit more go slow time while still providing that extra stimulation for the other one who really needs it?
Yeah.
Yes. And as a whole community of families, it'd be lovely to see a little bit more. I know that in some places it's done really well, but that camaraderie of looking out for each other's families a little bit and doing that kind of thing. Yeah. Love it, Claire.
Connection.
Yeah.
Exactly. Connection.
Comes full circle.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to the last one, probably the most juicy. So this is looking at the magic wish that we would grant to children. So Nat, what would be yours?
Mine would be to respect children again, to let them have a voice and be seen, because I feel like there's so many people making decisions for them, about them, and no one's actually listening to what they need and what they want. Basically, that's it. For me, I just feel like, we have a United Nations Convention on the rights of a child, and there's so many things in that convention that we are going against at the moment in terms of our education system and the pressure that families are putting on children. And the bottom line to that is that we're not listening and watching what they need. And that's what I want to get back to. That's what I want. I want them to be viewed as human beings and not data sources.
Yeah, and you make it sound like it's, a really simple one, and I guess it can be explained really quite briefly, but how impactful would that be? Like to really, respect each individual as a human being, like that could just change so much in all those people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of I've got the convention in front of me right now because I wanted to have a look through it and just, kind of highlight the areas where I feel like we're not getting it right. And, Australia has signed that convention. There's only 2 countries that have not signed it, and that's United States and Somalia, which is incredibly interesting considering that Australia follows a lot of what the United States does and they don't follow the convention. They haven't ratified it. So that's a big, warning bell right there.
What's standing out to you, Nat?
Just, Article 31 where it says children have the right to relax, play and to join in a wide range of leisure activities. Okay, so for me that's play. That's being able to just be free to be them and do what they want to do. That's a right to relax. Article 32, which says government should protect children from work that is dangerous. And that to me is standardised testing because it creates anxiety. Yeah. That's dangerous work. That's not just sending children out into work, before they're too young to do it. That's school stuff. Children should be protected from any activities that could harm their development. So we're making children sit in seats earlier and hold pencils when they're not ready for it and read when their eyes are not ready for it. that's harming their development. That's putting them at a deficit later on down the track when we need them to be functioning human beings to make our society function properly. You know, we're actually doing more damage to our countries by not listening to what children need in the early years, because what are we going to have in the next 40 years as our leaders? What are they going to be like?
Nat Smith for politician. Prime Minister.
Nat for PM.
I couldn't do it. I get too caught up in the politics and I just cry.
Oh, gosh.
Okay,
Yes.
over to you, Anna. What's your wish for children?
Well, look, I had I kind of had a couple, but one of them was really similar to Nat, which was I really want adults, big people, communities, councils to really put kids on their agenda as well, and really think about what they need. Why, you know, when we're doing urban planning and looking at what we're going to do with spaces or protecting spaces from overdevelopment, thinking about safety and right down to lighting and spacing around the spaces that kids will be outside playing under. You know, looking at adventure playgrounds and all sorts of different things like the street closures for playing out in the streets. And this is not something that kids can speak up about. It's something that the big people need to do for them. And that was sort of my main big one. But my other one for kids was for them, and I think we're all really thinking very much along the same lines, but I really wanted them to not only have these spaces to be energetic and active, but also have some opportunities and actually engage them in conversation about what they might like to chill out and relax and calm down. And, you know, is that having the comfiest beanbag in town? Is that having a little hideout tent? Is that having, you know, some really block out headphones and some cool music to listen to? Whatever it is, to have that time. Is it staring out the window or lying under the clouds? Whatever. Just to relax, chill out. Kids get stressed, kids get anxious, kids just don't need to be doing busily all the time.
Yeah, and then they have meltdowns and then we're like, why are you so freaked out right now? You know, like it's because of that.
Well, I've been pushed once too many times. One too many times.
Control it, can they? Because they're not ready to. And that's the saddest part, is that, you know, when we talk about behaviour and looking behind the behaviour, because the behaviour is telling us that there's something wrong, that's generally what it's from, is that they're just overstretched and overstimulated, and everything in our classrooms and our homes and our parks are overstimulating.
And what neuroscience is telling us is that behaviour is secondary to self-regulation and how we, you know, if you're not calm and regulated, you are not going to be able to just simply try harder, be better, sit stiller. You're not going to be able to do anything if you're not able to be calm and regulated.
Yeah.
It's sort of above behaviour. Yeah.
Come on, Claire.
Definitely. Claire. Come on, Claire, your turn.
Bring it home, baby.
All right, my wish for children
Bring it home.
is it's free play. It's giving children the time, the space, the freedom, the permission to play in their own way, and that just naturally tends to often involve lots of movement, and do it unsupervised as well. Like I really, you know, I think we need to rewind, you know, go back in a time machine, you know, kind of 10, 20, maybe even 30 years ago to what childhood used to be like for so many children. Even when I was young, you know, I could kind of go off and play for the day by myself, or you could go and knock on each other's door, or you could, you know, we've got some amazing play spaces, but they're underutilized because children are only there if their parents are taking them there. And as soon as the parent wants to get going, then the play ends. We haven't really got any children that are in these play spaces by themselves. Yeah. And, you know, that is a different kind of play. that comes up. And that play naturally moves at the pace it needs to move. It's where, you know, a lot of those life skills are developed, even, you know, negotiation, conflict resolution, all those sorts of things. The risk taking comes into it as well. And it typically moves at the pace it needs to. So sometimes it might be that really frenetic play that you were talking about before, Anna, but then it can also go slow and be a bit more nurturing and curiosity driven. And I just see so many children that, you know, because they're always at home glued to a screen, or because they've constantly got structured activities, or maybe simply because there isn't much space out in the back garden and no one is giving them permission to go to play spaces alone. There's so many kids that just don't ever have that as part of their life. And certainly at school, the play they do have is very, very restricted.
Yeah, it's on it. That is really comes back to the fact that our society is so fear driven, because we hear all the bad stuff in the news, you know, things happening. There's never about the, you know, good stuff that happens around the world. And so we're so fear-driven that we don't let our kids out of our sight because we're scared that someone's going to take them. We're scared that they're going to fall on something and we're not there to save them. We're scared. We're just so scared. We are so scared. And it's because we're not connected to each other. Again, it comes back to that connection again. If we knew each other like my parents knew all of our neighbours back when we were kids, and there were so many kids in our street and up the road and, you know, down the street and all of that, that if we knew each other like we did back then, we would feel safe to let our children go off and play with those other kids and know that we didn't have to be there.
It's not a dream that can happen overnight, though. It's something, and, you know, I agree with you both, but I think that there are lots of little baby steps that we can take as a community that I think lots of families would be more comfortable with jumping into straight up. And that could be as simple as taking a leaf out of some of the European countries' book where the adults might pack a bag or get their coffees and sort of set up camp a little bit with a whole bag of things that they'll hang out at the park. The kids will be playing. They'll do their own thing, but the parents are there being very social with each other and, you know, having their coffees and teas and having a good natter. And it's kind of that midway between leaving kids completely alone and being there over their shoulder. You're just sort of off to the side, set up camp, and the kids know, oh, yep, they're over there. But you're there for so long that the kids really get into a nice flow of playing and moving around and doing their own thing. It's kind of good. There's lots of cafes and things too that are really set up right beside the play areas. So a lot of the adults will just hang out at the cafes and bars. And the kids will just...
Oh, you said bars.
Be out.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually
started.
not kidding. Yeah. A whole street of bars. and the kids are outside playing, doing their own thing in the next door.
And what
but
I
it's
love...
not, it's still... It's sort of that middle ground between sort of leaving them and being so far away. You're there, you're within earshot or eyeshot of seeing where everyone is, but they're doing their own thing and you're doing your own thing.
And what I love about that too is that it's really it's important for the adults' mental well-being. Like, I think that's part of the issue for families with the overwhelm and the stress, is that we're very isolated. And so, you know, you can really feel like you're going around in circles all the time and every day feels like the next. And hang on, I've got some little knocks at the door. I'm still recording.
Mummy time too.
Cute.
But it's not school holidays in WA or in Victoria, but it still is in South Australia. So, but still, I've done well to get this long. But we probably need to bring things to an end because otherwise the knocking is going to keep persisting.
That's great. I love it.
I love it.
But it comes back parents needing to play a little bit too,
Yes.
and parents kind of, you know, having a drink and a catch up and having a laugh with their friends, and the kids doing the same thing. We shouldn't always have to be just there watching the kids play. We can be there having a good time too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If only we lived in the same state. If only we lived in the same state, we could, you know, meet at the park with a bottle of wine and we could just let the kids go off and have a nice little
exactly how it
time.
should be. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, guys. I have loved it. I found it really fascinating to see our own little, I guess, personal differences in how we would use those 3 wishes, but so much overlap. And
Lots
I
of overlap.
that's really exciting. I think that really, I don't know. I think it gives people listening in a really clear idea of what we would like to see in an ideal world, but also some more tangible ways that they could start looking at things and maybe having conversations or creating changes at their own, you know, home or classroom or school level as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, just chatting with your other half, or chatting with another parent or someone at school.
Spread the love.
Getting the conversation going. Get the conversation going.
Just in so many ways, we can create big impact. And I think that that's really important, that yes, we're not really going to have a genie come and grant us 3 wishes, but there's still stuff that we can each do in our everyday lives to take us closer towards what we've really outlined as goals, I suppose.
Yeah.
And in the same way that we love watching children take these little challenges that they feel confident and comfortable making, I think that we need to, you know, really encourage and support adults and communities and planners to also take those little steps, those little challenges that we also feel comfortable with
and it is breaking
confident
it
with
down. Yep.
in the right direction, in that right direction. Let's little by little chip away.
Yep. We've got to empower
Well said, Anna.
ourselves.
So before we officially say goodbye, maybe you could just both say what your website is or your Facebook page so people can find you. So Nat, what's yours?
So I am Brilliant Boys on Facebook, because my main focus is on boys education. So I'm also at www.brilliantboys.com.au, so you can find me there, and I'm available for professional development sessions with schools and parenting areas as well.
And you, Anna?
And I am at kidsplayspace.com.au. There's Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest there attached too, but also on the website is the free play starter kit, which new subscribers can just download for free, and also available for workshops for educators and parent groups too.
And I'm at thrivingchildren.com.au. So thanks so much again to you
guys.
both. And that's
Thanks, Nat. Thanks, Claire.
guys.
Can't wait to do it
Lovely
again.
to chat with you.
thanks, guys. And that's
Bye.
the end of this episode of the Thriving Children podcast. Until next time, be kind to yourself.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Children podcast. For even more goodness, visit thrivingchildren.com.au.